At 14, my stepmom, let's call her Vivian, told me to step out of the family portrait because I didn't fit in. She beamed for the camera as if nothing was wrong, while I stood aside, fighting back tears. That evening, I skipped supper and sat alone in my room, sketching a life where I finally belonged. Years later, that life made headlines, and she wasn't a part of it. My name is Anya Sharma, and this is the story of how Vivian made me feel like an outsider, and how I built a life so radiant it overshadowed her. Growing up, I didn't see myself as invisible, not initially. I was reserved, yes, but I earned good marks, kept my space tidy, and didn't demand much. I was the type of child who could be relied upon to be quiet in the car while the adults conversed, and for a while, that seemed to please everyone. Then Vivian married Robert, and everything changed. Robert had 2 kids, Chloe and Ethan. They were boisterous, athletic, and craved attention. Vivian described them as a breath of fresh air. Suddenly, our walls were covered in photos of soccer medals, dance performances, and sun-kissed beach days. My artwork, drawings I had carefully mounted and displayed in the hallway, vanished one by one, replaced by pictures of the new family. No one mentioned it, not even when I inquired. Vivian loved posting about our lives online, matching outfits, organized family outings, brunches with hashtags. But I was always cropped out or positioned to the side, blurry, caught mid-blink, forgotten. I tried to speak with her once. "Do you not want me in the pictures?" I asked one evening as she browsed filters on her phone. She sighed as if I had asked her for a major organ donation. "Anya, don't exaggerate everything. You're so sensitive." That was Vivian's go-to phrase. "You're too sensitive." As if my wounded feelings were a character flaw, as if I should be thankful just to exist silently in the background. I stopped asking questions after that. Holidays were the worst. Robert's kids received new scooters and tablets. I received socks or school supplies. One Christmas, they unwrapped matching Arctic gear jackets, while I received a notebook with my name misspelled on the cover. Vivian smiled and said, "You enjoy drawing, don't you?" I wanted to sink into the floor. The hardest part wasn't the presents. It was the way she acted, as if everything was normal, as if I was simply ungrateful for not applauding over a discounted notebook while everyone else unwrapped their second round of gifts. But not everyone overlooked it. My grandmother, Vivian's mother, lived in a small town nearby in a cozy house with chimes on the porch. Her name was Beatrice. She had streaks of silver in her hair and always smelled of spiced tea. She called me Annie and said I had my grandfather's hands, strong and steady, perfect for making things. She never asked me to explain myself. She simply saw me. That was enough. When things became difficult at home, I started spending weekends at Grandma Beatrice's. Vivian didn't object. In fact, she seemed relieved to have one less person to accommodate in her carefully constructed life. At Grandma's, I could relax. She noticed I was always sketching faces, buildings, fashion designs, and asked if I had ever thought about visual communication. I told her I didn't even know what that was. The following week, she signed me up for a free weekend workshop at the local library, then another and another. "Don't let anyone diminish your world, Annie," she told me one night as we sat under a knitted blanket watching old movies. "You're more capable than they want you to believe." Vivian never asked where I was going or what I was learning. If she ever noticed I was improving in design, she didn't say a word. One day, she handed me a grocery list and said, "Make yourself useful and pick these items up while I take Chloe to her acting audition." I looked at the list. Hair products, treats, scented sticks, all premium brands, naturally. She pressed a $10 bill into my hand as if that would cover it. When I pointed it out, she rolled her eyes. "Then use your own money. You're always at your grandmother's house anyway. I'm sure she spoils you." That was the moment I realized Vivian didn't see me as her daughter. I was just an extra to manage, a child who didn't fit the image, and if I didn't fit, I didn't matter. I started journaling more, sketching late into the night, planning an escape I couldn't yet articulate. Grandma Beatrice encouraged me to keep every drawing, every idea. She told me, "Someday you'll need to show the world what they missed." She was right, but back then, I was just a kid with a pencil and a growing emptiness in my chest. I didn't desire revenge. I just wanted to feel like I belonged somewhere. High school was when I realized I was officially invisible. not just overlooked, invisible. My stepmom Vivian had perfected the art of smiling right through me. If I received top grades, she'd nod as if I'd informed her I'd cleaned the bathroom, but if Chloe made honor roll, oh, she'd post about it on social media as if her daughter had just discovered a cure. Chloe and Ethan were Robert's kids, my step-siblings. When Vivian married Robert, it was as if she'd rebranded our family. We were suddenly the Millers, not the Sharmas, not me. She changed our last names to match Robert's. Mine was the only one that didn't change. I didn't argue. I simply quietly stopped trying to be seen. They went on mountain trips in the winter, lakeside retreats in the summer. "You don't like the cold," Vivian said when I asked why I wasn't invited. The following year, it was, "You get sunburned easily." Eventually, she stopped pretending. It's just simpler when it's the four of us. So while they posed for sunset photos by the lake, I stayed at home, but not with them. I'd pack a bag and stay with my Grandma Beatrice. Grandma Beatrice was my stepmom's mother, but you'd never guess it. She lived in a small blue house with squeaky floors, and the scent of lavender always lingered in the air. Her hands were warm and always smelled of soap, and she never asked me to smile for a picture. She simply handed me a plate of cookies and said, "Let it all out." And I would. That's also where I started to draw digitally. I had this old tablet, probably a hand-me-down from one of Vivian's unwanted gift piles. I used a cheap stylus from the discount bin and started sketching fashion concepts, fake magazine layouts, anything that allowed me to feel like I was creating something significant, something that couldn't be cropped out of a photo. Grandma noticed one Saturday afternoon. She entered the room and sat beside me while I was designing a mock-up for a fictional coffee brand. She examined it silently, then said, "Have you ever considered doing this professionally?" I shrugged. "It's just something I enjoy." She didn't push, just said, "Keep everything you create. We'll need it later." That's how it started. Every weekend, I'd bring my digital sketches to Grandma's house. She'd print them out, slip them into protective sleeves, and organize them into a large leather binder she called Anya's Book of Brilliance. I thought it was silly at first, but later it would be everything. In my junior year of high school, Grandma Beatrice enrolled me in a digital art class at the community center downtown. Vivian had said, "No, absolutely not, too expensive," even though she had just spent a significant amount on a limited edition handbag for Chloe's birthday. Grandma paid for it herself. She even arranged transportation for me so Vivian wouldn't know. I think she always knew I'd need an escape route. And then one afternoon, she proved it. It was after school, and I was sitting at her kitchen table discussing how my guidance counselor said I could try applying to art schools if I developed a proper portfolio. I was excited, but I didn't allow myself to get my hopes up too high. Vivian had already laughed when I mentioned college at home. "Design? That's not a real career, Anya." Grandma didn't laugh. She got up and walked into her bedroom. I heard her opening drawers. When she returned, she was holding a sealed envelope. She slid it across the table. "Your grandfather established an education fund. I've added to it a little over time. It's in your name. I've been waiting for the right moment to tell you." I simply stared at her. "You're going to college, Anya," she said as if it were already decided. And I did. I applied to 6 schools, was accepted into 3, and received a full scholarship to a top visual design program at a private university in another state. The acceptance letter arrived in a thick, glossy envelope. Vivian never opened it. She didn't even notice it in the mail. I left the day after graduation. No party, no photos, just Grandma and me packing my small suitcase and loading it onto a train. College was the first place I ever felt like an individual. My roommate Simone was outgoing and energetic and loved everything I created. She showed my designs to her friend who worked at a local shop, and just like that, I got my first paid project designing their seasonal catalog. After that, things progressed quickly. A local advertising firm hired me part-time, then a brand development agency offered me a summer internship. I stayed up late, worked weekends, and built my resume while Vivian posted filtered brunch photos with the caption, "Family always comes first." I remained silent. 4 years later, I graduated with highest honors. I had job offers lined up before I even received my diploma. One of those offers came from GVA, a marketing firm known for launching major names in fashion and lifestyle. Their CEO had seen my student work during a national conference and emailed me directly. "Anya," he wrote, "your talent for visual storytelling is exceptional. Let's connect." I didn't tell Vivian. She thought I was working at a bakery instead. I quietly moved into a small apartment near the firm and started building something no one could ever take away. The years went by. I progressed from junior designer to art director to lead creative strategist. By 27, I bought my own condo, took Grandma Beatrice to Tuscany for her birthday, paid off her mortgage, and got a dog named Lucky who wore tiny sweaters in the winter. Vivian was still posting family selfies with Chloe and Ethan, still pretending I didn't exist. And then everything shifted. It was a Tuesday morning when the call came. I was sitting in the break room sipping tea and finalizing a presentation when my assistant knocked. Channel 3's morning show confirmed. "You're going live next week. They want to feature you as part of their Rising Stars segment." I nearly dropped my mug. The segment aired the following Monday. A comfortable set, smiling hosts, and me discussing creative storytelling, brand identity, and my journey from unnoticed teen to industry professional. They even showed some of my early sketches from college. Grandma had saved everything naturally. The comments flooded in, "Incredible. So gifted. Where has she been hiding all this time?" Vivian found out the same way everyone else did. She was hosting a lunch for Ethan's new accounting certification when the TV showed my face. I wasn't there to witness it, but I imagine her fork paused halfway to her mouth. I imagine Chloe blinked. Ethan made a silly remark because suddenly, I wasn't invisible anymore. I was everywhere. The magazine articles, the professional networking profile spotlight, a campaign banner in the city center. The girls she told to stay out of the picture had just become the face of an entire creative movement, and that was just the beginning. The message arrived 2 days after the morning show aired. "Anya, it's your stepmother. My 50th birthday is next month. We're having a lovely brunch at Willow Creek Gardens. You probably haven't heard of it. Very exclusive. Be there 11 a.m. sharp. Don't embarrass me. No, how are you? No, I'm proud of you." Just a demand with a subtle insult included, as always. I almost deleted it, but instead, I chuckled, not out of bitterness, just astonishment. 13 years of silence, and this was the grand return, a brunch invitation presented as a royal command. That night, over herbal tea in Grandma Beatrice's kitchen, I told her about the message. She didn't say much, just raised an eyebrow and asked, "So, what are you bringing her?" I smiled and took out a small envelope. Inside was a voucher, an all-inclusive luxury spa getaway in the Italian Alps, private chef, mountain view suite, driver, a substantial amount of money. Grandma nearly dropped her teacup. "Anya, she doesn't deserve this." "Oh, I know," I said, sipping calmly, "but I'm not giving it to her. I just want her to see what she gave up." She laughed softly. "You have a mischievous side." The day of the brunch, I wore a simple black dress and a delicate silver necklace. No designer labels, no flashy shoes, just understated elegance, the kind people overlook until it's no longer there. I arrived 10 minutes early. Willow Creek Gardens was exactly as I expected. Superficially elegant, weak cocktails, decor that appeared expensive if you'd never actually traveled. The host led me to the private sunroom. Everyone was already seated: Chloe, Ethan, Robert, and several people I hadn't seen since I was a young teen. Vivian sat at the head of the table, adorned in shimmering fabrics and self-importance. When she saw me, she blinked as if I were an apparition. "Oh, you actually came," she said, forcing a smile. "You could have dressed up more for the occasion." I simply nodded and took a seat at the far end of the table. The brunch proceeded like a low-budget drama. Chloe gave Vivian a personalized trinket box. Ethan presented a monogram designer handbag. Each gift was met with exaggerated gratitude and insincere tears. Then it was my turn. I reached into my clutch and placed a small, neatly wrapped box in front of her. No grand gesture, no speech, just a quiet, happy birthday. Vivian stared at it, her eyes narrowing. This better not be one of those minimalist gifts people brag about online. "Honestly, Anya, you show up in plain clothes, take a taxi here, and now this." She didn't even open the box, just pushed it back across the table. "You always had a knack for disappointment." The room fell silent. Even Chloe looked uncomfortable. I picked up the box, brushed off a speck, and said calmly, "That's a voucher for a luxury retreat in the Italian Alps, the kind of place where people go to escape the noise." Her face went white. "You're lying." "I was going to give it to you," I said, slipping it back into my clutch, "but now I realize you don't want me. You just want what I can offer you. You always have." I stood up, straightened my dress, and gave her one last look. "You told me to stay out of the picture, so I did. But I didn't disappear. I simply became more focused." Then I walked out. No one followed me. The taxi was waiting outside. As we drove away, I saw Vivian rush to the front entrance, phone in hand. She was already dialing. I didn't answer for the next 2 weeks. The messages flooded in. "We need to talk. You overreacted. We're still family. Chloe needs help with her website. Maybe you two can collaborate. We're redecorating the living room. Could use a creative eye." Each message more transparent than the last. I blocked her on everything, but she found a way around it, showing up at Grandma Beatrice's house with fake tears and demands. Grandma calmly told her to leave. "You gave up your daughter years ago. Don't act surprised that she doesn't want you now." That night, I sat on Grandma's porch and watched the city lights twinkle through the trees. Then I pulled out the Italian retreat voucher and smiled. I changed the name. "Grandma," I said, "look." "What?" "It's yours now. You always wanted to see the Alps." She stared at me, her mouth slightly open. "Annie, I don't need this." I leaned in and took her hand. "You don't need it, but you deserve it. You saw me when no one else did. You let me create. You called me talented. You saved every piece. That's what mothers do." She cried. I let her. For the first time in a long time, I felt complete, not in a showy social media-worthy way, but in a quiet, secure way that tells you you're loved. Vivian will continue to tell people I'm ungrateful, that I abandoned her, that I owe her something, but I don't. I owe everything to the woman who made space for me when the rest of the world said, "Not now, not you." The family portrait might have been perfect without me, but the life I've built? It's far better because she wasn't in it.